The Dark Truths of El Chapo's SUPERMAX Prison. Joaquin Guzman, also called El Chapo, is a convicted Mexican drug lord who has escaped from maximum security prisons in Mexico on 2 separate occasions. The first time, he did so by excavating a tunnel that was 1 mile long from his cell. But one day, U.S. authorities took action to ensure Guzman would never be able to escape for a 3rd time. Welcome back to Just Crime, where we tell you the craziest stories. So, are you ready? Let's start. Today, we are going to talk about El Chapo. Heard the name before? According to a statement released by the United States Bureau of Prisons on Friday, the convicted Mexican drug lord El Chapo has been moved to a SUPERMAX prison in Colorado. It is a jail from which no one has ever escaped. Being a top leader of the Sinaloa cartel, one of Mexico's largest and most violent drug trafficking organizations, Guzman was sentenced to life in prison, plus 30 years in a federal court in Brooklyn. This topic came after he was convicted of drug trafficking and engaging in multiple murder conspiracies by the same jury which found him guilty of drug trafficking. Guzman was able to get out of high-security prison in Mexico on 2 separate occasions before eventually being apprehended in 2016. In a statement, the United States Bureau of Prisons said, "We can confirm that Joaquin Guzman is in the custody of the Federal Bureau of Prisons at the United States Penitentiary Administrative Maximum, Florence, located in Florence, Colorado. We can confirm that Joaquin Guzman is believed to be in the custody of the Federal Bureau of Prisons." The Bureau of Prisons did not wish to provide any further remark. Jeffrey Lichtman, Guzman's attorney, told the Denver Post that his client was taken from a top-secret site in New York on Friday at the crack of dawn and transported to the SUPERMAX jail in Florence. The correctional facility opened its doors in 1994 and is located around 115 miles, or 185 kilometers, south of Denver. About 375 people are currently housed there. There is a long list of notable criminals that Guzman now joins there. They include Unabomber Ted Kaczynski, September 11th conspirator Zacarias Moussaoui, shoe bomber Richard Reed, Boston Marathon bomber Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, and Ramzi Youssef, who was responsible for the bombing of the World Trade Center in New York City. The Colorado SUPERMAX prison is referred to as the Alcatraz of the Rockies after the infamous prison in San Francisco that once housed criminals like Al Capone and George Machine Gun Kelly, as well as Robert Franklin Stroud, also known as the Birdman of Alcatraz. The Colorado SUPERMAX prison is located in the Rocky Mountains. Like other inmates, Guzman will most likely be placed in solitary confinement. Guzman will most likely be placed in solitary confinement for approximately 23 hours a day. His cell will have a small window measuring approximately 42 inches, or 107 centimeters, in height and tilted upward so that only the ceiling will be seen. Within the confines of his cell, he will have access to educational and religious programming and the ability to watch television. As the offenders were exercising influence outside of the confines of prison or making threats, further limitations were implemented. The prisoners are only permitted to roam the facility if they are escorted. At least 6 times a day, head counts are carried out. What is inside this SUPERMAX prison? The famed Mexican drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman is currently detained in the United States in Florence, Colorado. It is there, in the Administrative Maximum U.S. Penitentiary, where he will serve the remainder of his life sentence in prison, plus an additional 30 years as determined by a judge. El Chapo managed to flee from Mexican authorities not once, but twice, in 2001 and 2014. However, it appears that this time around, he will be staying for a considerably more extended period. This SUPERMAX prison is known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies, and it has not had a single prisoner break out of its confines since it opened in 1994. El Chapo, now 62 years old, checked into the facility 2 days after being sentenced to life in prison. He joined other notorious criminals such as the Unabomber, a conspirator in the Oklahoma City federal building explosion, and a man who bombed the World Trade Center in 1993. After spending 23 hours a day inside a soundproof cell, each of the ADX's 400 inmates is allowed 1 hour of rec time, during which they are closely monitored. They are restrained in handcuffs and shackles and are allowed 1 hour of supervised recreation. In addition, there is only a restricted version of television accessible to watch, and cell phones are not allowed, meaning black and white recreational, religious, and educational programming. We're glad this knowledge keeps you interested. Stay tuned to learn more. We attempted to collect all these unique studies and would appreciate it if you could subscribe to our channel and click the like button. Everything in the cell is constructed out of stone and is fixed to either the wall or the floor in some way. The mattress on the concrete bed is a thin pad, and the bed itself is constructed out of concrete. There is also a little stool made of concrete molded into the ground, and a couple of small shelves protrude from the wall close to the in-cell sink. Every cell is created with the specific purpose of warding against potential dangers. Some of the cells include showers, which further reduces the amount of interaction inmates have with the security personnel. Nevertheless, the batteries are equipped with timers to prevent flooding. If there is a problem with the toilet, it will turn off. There is no tap on the sink. After a year of incarceration, inmates have the opportunity to earn additional daily rec time, contingent upon their behavior. They are only expected to stay there for 3 years before being moved to a facility with fewer restrictions, and this represents the objective of their stay there. On the other hand, there is a substantial amount of debate regarding the effect that prolonged confinement and isolation have on mental health. 11 prisoners took legal action against the facility in 2012, claiming that they were subjected to repeated acts of abuse and that their mental health conditions were not correctly diagnosed. I had a conversation with a prison staff member who shall remain nameless to get her perspective on the attempted breakout that she had prevented in her facility. The inmates in her level 4 out of 5 facility are known to be aggressive. Still, none of them has reached the same level of notoriety or consistently committed as many acts of violence as those housed at the ADX SUPERMAX facility. This helps to illustrate how pointless an escape plot would be in a prison that doesn't even come close to matching the security levels of the ADX SUPERMAX facility. As I was making my way up to post without a radio, I noticed that an inmate was standing in the doorway. I saw what appeared to be a water bottle hanging from the roof, she added. And when he saw the look on my face, he took off swiftly. I went around the side of the home to get a better look and saw that it was a giant braided rope made of sheets with a weighted water bottle tethered to the end. This is a specific word for each separate living complex in a jail. However, it had become entangled in razor wire and was hanging precariously. It was later determined that there had been an unsuccessful attempt to flee the scene. She said there were bags of food and black garments on top of the home, as well as a large foot-long metal rod honed to a point hidden inside the rope. In addition to that, it was a level 4. Is SUPERMAX prison worse than death? CNN spoke with current C1 columnist and former ADX warden Robert Hood, who portrayed life in ADX in strict terms. Hood served as ADX warden from 2002 until 2005. The moment they walk through the door, you can see it's written all over their faces. When you least expect it, that's when it slams you. The splendor of the Rocky Mountains serves as a background to what you're seeing now. As soon as you step inside, that will be the last time you look out at it. The SUPERMAX represents life after one has passed away. It will take some time. In my perspective, the experience is far worse than dying. When was it born? According to the Washington Post, the idea for ADX came about after the murder of 2 correctional officers on October 22, 1983, at the Marion Federal Prison in Illinois, which, at the time, was the most secure federal prison in the United States. After their deaths, the Marion prison was converted into an all-lockdown institution and used as a blueprint for constructing additional SUPERMAX lockdown facilities such as Pelican Bay and ADX. We would like to end by saying, like the other inmates, Guzman will most likely be placed in solitary confinement for approximately 23 hours a day. His cell will have a small window measuring about 42 inches or 107 centimeters in height and tilted upwards so that only the ceiling will be seen. It is anticipated that the television in his cell will provide him access to educational and religious programming during his incarceration. To ensure that offenders are unable to exercise influence outside of the confines of the prison or make threats, further limitations have been implemented. The inmates are restricted to certain areas of the facility and must always be accompanied by an officer. Well, now that the topic is ended, you must have an idea of this SUPERMAX prison's description. If you liked the video, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for further updates. Tell us how it went, and if you have any suggestions, please include them. We are interested in hearing what you expect from our content. Also, do check out our other videos too.